Is having two parrots twice as much work as one? Hi, I'm Kaylin, the author of The Parrot Bliss Bond. Please be sure to get your copy on Amazon.com so that you have your handbook for providing everything you need to give your parrot a quality life so that you can have quantities of bliss. This is my green-cheeked Amazon or red-crowned Amazon or Mexican red-headed Ursulus. And he is a doll. Now, he's not a Caique, but my Caiques, they're acting a little amorous, so I'm stepping back and letting them do their thing. So instead, I just have Ursulus acting a little like he wants pets. There's the pets. How do you know, are two parrots twice as much work as one? And if you have a Caique, should you get a second Caique? What happens if you don't get a second Caique? Let's talk about those Caiques a little. I really like the way they pronounce them, I think, in Australia. They're Caiques. So when it comes to a Caique, one of the things about Caiques is I would say that they are high maintenance. I feel like they're on the higher end of high maintenance for a parrot. What do you think, Ursulus? Come here, you want to say hi? Come here, sweetie. Good boy. You want to say hi? Go beep, 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 beep. He does all these tricks for my daughter, but usually not for me. Give me a kiss. Aw, give me a kiss. Beep, 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 beep. No. Hi, Ursulus. I swear they know when they're being filmed, and then they stop what is she talking about? All of a sudden, this yakety bird who does 100 things, different things with my daughter, is like a statue, aren't you? Aren't you? But he's a lovable statue, aren't you? So the thing about Caiques is I kind of feel like their diet is a little delicate. My mentor said that they can be sensitive, to protein, if I recall that conversation correctly. So if you have a Caique, I would really stick to the basics. My Caiques are phenomenal eaters. I can put the kitchen sink in their breakfast veggies and they would eat them. It's always a pleasure to feed them because they eat the vegetables, they eat, the carrots. If there's sprouts, when I give them sprouts, they eat the sprouts. They just do super duper well. And some of my other parrots, they kind of pick through and, they're really good at sorting food. Have you noticed that? The things I don't want, I'll just toss right out of the bowl onto my cage floor, maybe outside of my cage. Let me see how big of a mess I can make you. That's a parrot. And my Caiques, they're kind of messy. They're not messy. Somebody wants attention. I won't do any tricks, but I want love. There you go. There you go. But they're really good eaters. I, of course, cannot say that all Caiques are good eaters. I'd love to hear if your Caique is a good eater, but mine are really, really fantastic eaters. I feel good about it. But I kind of stick to not fancy stuff. When I do scrambled eggs, because I think the protein is really good for my parrots, because there is such thing as egg food for parrots, and I think Higgins even sells dry egg food for parrots, which is, based in egg. I really kind of hold back a little with my Caiques. I go heavier on vegetables with them, and I just try to be kind of a little careful with them. I just got a little spooked because I had one that got sick on me out of the blue, and the rest were fine. So I kind of feel like my guess is it was something that he ate, but I have no clue. And anyway, so I'm kind of cautious with what I give my Caiques food-wise. Now, one thing about a Caique, if you're looking at adding a second parrot, if you feel like your parrot's lonely, it probably is, because remember, they are accustomed to being with their flock 24/7, or almost pretty much 24/7. And I think that even when they go to different trees, they have excellent vision. So I don't think we can say that they can't see their flock mates. He's like biting my, don't eat my buttons, okay? But even if they can't see their flock mates, they can scream so they hear their flock mates. So I think that I suspect that if I went into the wild and I observed wild parrots, I think I would find that they were either with their flock mates 24/7 or they were within sight or hearing range. So your parrot very well may be lonely if you only have one. Is having a second kite going to be twice as much work, or a second parrot? Yes and no. Caiques are really interesting because they are like high energy. They are, oh, thank you. Good kiss. You're such a good boy. Hi, Ursulus. You finally gave me the kiss. Oh, you're such a good boy. They're really like high energy. They're so playful. And I don't know if like they just have a high metabolism because they have a lot of energy. I don't know what it is, but Caiques are little poop machines. And they don't like, some of my parrots are phenomenal. They poop and it just falls down. And then cleaning the cage is a piece of cake. But with the Caiques, they like jet it out. And so it's often all over the cage. If we're cleaning cages, not all of them need it, but the Caiques always need it. The African Greys always need it. That's two species that, in that sense, I feel like they're more work. And having two Caiques is going to be twice as much. So if I had reasons, either I worked a lot or, due to illness, whatever it is, where I couldn't give my parrot the time and attention they needed, I would get a second parrot, but I would think about whether or not I would get a second Caique. Generally speaking, I always advocate getting the same species because they bond and they connect more. And if you don't want fertile eggs, you make sure you get the same gender. However, if there was something where I really, like, I didn't know if I could keep up with twice the phenomenal poops, because they're like that, I would look at a second parrot whose diet is exceedingly similar. Because, for example, he likes to go and steal nuts from my nut eaters. It drives me insane because I kind of feel like it doesn't matter where I put them, it doesn't matter what I do, he finds them. And I go over and I'm like, get back here, give me that nut out of your mouth, go over here, don't eat that. It's difficult. So if I had a Caique, I would have to think about, I don't know. I'm sure Caiques would get along with a lot of birds because they're so friendly. No, scratch that. Caiques are really assertive, and that's, of course, generally speaking, but they take sort of up room in the space they're in, and they kind of give most of my parrots a run for their money. So I take it back. I would be really careful who I got. You would have to find a parrot, like I can't think of a parrot off the top of my head, who is going to be sort of as pronounced as a Caique, because you have to kind of match the energy too, right? I mean, otherwise your Caique might just bulldoze the other parrot. For example, a really good example is a cockatiel. The cockatiels are like the sweetest, most incredibly loving parrots with like no defense. Every parrot has a hook bill, and I think they are like, it's not that they don't have hook bill, it's just it's so small, they're like an exception. So I would never put a cockatiel with a lot of parrots, but especially like a macaw or a Caique. It would just be, I would be so worried about the cockatiel. I don't think they would do well. So I would think long and hard. The other thing is, my Caiques are some of my loudest parrots. The Amazons are worse, like Ursula's here. And so you have to also decide if you're okay with like potentially twice the noise level. So that kind of makes it hard. I kind of feel like, I don't know who a good bird to pair a Caique with is. It might be like, I kind of feel like it would be some sort of conure, because conures also, especially larger conures, not like the, I don't know if I'm gonna say it right, Puria conures, like a green cheek conure. I mean, they're kind of good at standing their ground too, but I would probably try to go a little bigger, like maybe a sun conure, but they're loud. And a lot of conures in the conure family are loud. So, you know, I would look at some things like that, but I would definitely consider getting my Caique a buddy. In a worst case scenario, I would put them, I would get a cage and I would have them caged side by side as far as the cages go, so that they can at least see the other parrot. It's not ideal because ideally they have to be able to do things like Ursula's just did. They have to be able to be in physical proximity. And one reason is because then they preen each other's heads, and when they molt and their new pin feathers come out, they help each other with the pin feathers on their head. They you know, when they're bonded, whether they're the same species or not, they're like next to each other at night. And it's just ideal to have them in the same cage if you're fully comfortable. Usually if it's the same species, it's a lot easier to be comfortable. You know, comfortable that they're gonna be safe and secure. They're not gonna, one's not gonna injure the other one. You're not gonna have any problems. They're truly bonded. So I think those are some things to keep in mind. I would definitely strive to get that second parrot. I would try to match the size. I would try to match the diet. Caiques are not nut eaters. And you know, like an Amazon, they're even louder than the Caiques, so I don't really recommend them if you're indoors. But even my Amazons, they kind of like go like this when the Caiques are out there, like, oh God, here comes, you know, I mean, the Caiques, they just like, they think that they're as big as a macaw, and it's almost like their energy's like that, and so their energy comes in the room and everyone's like, oh my God. And they're, of course, I don't know, and their vigor and their mindset and their attitude is like that. So it's a lot to try to match that presence and that spunk and that energy, because they are so playful. My Caiques, you know, sometimes they're at the bottom of the cage, like wrestling and playing and rolling around, and they're incredible, and finding something like them is going to be difficult. So I don't know, maybe a second Caique would be the way to go. What do you think? What do you think, Ursula? Do you think that's the way to go? And then you just have to keep the cage clean. I think that's the biggest problem is, for me, it's keeping my Caiques cages clean. Man, oh man, right? Thank you for joining me in this red and green video. If you have any questions about parrots, please be sure to comment below or on parrotbliss.com or the Facebook, Instagram Messenger. I hope you are having a blissful day with your feathered fig, and I will catch you next time.